I began the program tonight highlighting the hypocrisy of a government which on one hand seems clueless about reducing our power bills, despite their 92 promises to do so during the election campaign, while on the other hand very clear about Australia hosting one of these climate talk fests. And the climate evangelist himself, Chris Bowen, has spent years condemning coal and gas while talking up the magic of a purely renewable near future in this country. But it's been Labor's destructive black and white ideology on this that will see this country pay heavily for power and face blackouts in the process. As columnist Claire Lehmann wrote in The Australian this week, much of the ideological rhetoric about renewable energy remains overcooked, overhyped and downright irresponsible. Claire joins us in the studio right now. Bravo for telling the truth, Claire. Bravo for you. No amount of wishful groupthink, which is what you write in your article, will make this transition happen easily. Just because you close down gas and coal, the steel girders of a wind turbine don't magically spring out of the ground to replace that sort of power. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah, and what the proponents of renewables don't seem to understand is that there's an extraordinary difference in energy density when it comes to fossil fuels and renewables and nuclear power. So fossil fuels, they produce something like 500 to 10,000 watts of energy per square metre, whereas renewables, it's 5 to 20, that's for solar. For wind, it's 1 to 2.
Right.
So you need vast tracts of land to produce the same amount of energy as one coal plant. And, you know, I don't think people fully grasp how much land is needed, how many solar panels are needed, how many wind turbines are needed to fill the gap that's going to arise when we shut these coal plants down.
We all care about the environment. We care deeply about our environment and the environment we leave for our children. But you don't need to be a climate skeptic to realise that by closing gas and coal-fired power stations, you take away vast majority of our baseload power, when actually, as we become more developed, as we take up electric cars, we actually need much more of it.
Well, that's the thing. People assume that green energy is green. It's not that green when you take into account what it takes to make the wind turbines, to make the solar panels, and batteries are incredibly dirty. When you think about the mining that goes into lithium and the minerals that we need for batteries, it ruins rivers, it creates pollution. I mean, green energy is only green when you think about the energy production, but everything that goes into it is not green at all.
And I've never bought, please explain to me, I've never bought this idea, we're going to create many, many thousands of jobs out of more solar panels and more wind turbines. But the last I heard, we weren't making solar panels or wind turbines in Australia. They're all made from coal-fired power station factories in China.
And unfortunately, some of that labour is potentially child labour or slave labour. So, you know, this is not necessarily an ethical labour, production force. But it's true. I think a lot of the rhetoric around creation of jobs is wishful thinking. I mean, there's a hope that this new industry will create enough jobs to make up for the jobs that are going to be lost from the closure of coal plants. But it's a hope. You know, it's not a sure thing. It's actually a risky bet.
Yeah, and I don't have the homework in front of me or haven't seen the plan put together by any government that says this is when renewables will reach the baseload level of our fossil fuels today. So therefore, at that point, we can close down coal and gas. If you actually did a scientific document on that, you could find out it's in about 100 years' time.
Yeah, that's right. We completely underestimate how many wind turbines are needed, how many solar panels are needed, how many transmission lines are needed, how many batteries are needed. And I haven't, like you, I have not seen any date, any numbers.
No homework at all.
What we need to fill the gap. It's just wishful thinking.
Yeah, and no matter, as you write, no matter how much wishful group think you have, things won't necessarily happen the way you plan.
Reality has a way of making itself known.
Yeah, exactly. Claire Lehmann, wonderful article. Thank you very much for explaining it to us.